Welcome to the very first episode of Tank and Maddie's CNA Chronicles. I'm Maddie,
I'm Tank.
and we're going to talk about things that have happened over the course of our careers as CNA. But first, let's introduce ourselves and let you get to know us a little better. I've been a CNA since the early 2000s. I've seen a lot of changes, been through a lot of changes, and just really worked through a lot of different things. I became a CNA after I divorced my husband as a career to raise my children, and it has worked really well for me over the years. What about you, Tank?
Well, I've been a CNA for a little over 20 years and a domestic aide for about 5 to 7 years. I got into it because, believe it or not, my family are CNAs. My grandmother, my grandfather, my mom and dad, and my family are all in the nursing field. So I said I might as well join, and I've been doing it since.
So I grew up in Vegas. I'm originally from Alabama, but I grew up in Vegas, and I went, through a couple of different facilities here. I've also worked in Oregon and Washington. So it's, really cool to see the differences in the healthcare industry in different states. Where did you start, Tank?
Believe it or not, I started in Michigan, and I worked in multiple states. I was a traveling CNA also, so I got to be in different states. Michigan, Kansas, South Dakota, Washington, Nevada, Florida, and the diversity is crazy. Oh yeah, you got different, backgrounds that, you have to look into it with being a CNA. You got religions, backgrounds. I worked in the psych ward too, so it all depends on what you do and where you go.
So what did you like about Michigan?
Believe it or not, the snow.
I think that's the one thing that I would say I wouldn't like.
Oh, I missed the first snowfall. That's it.
Yeah.
After that, the rain, the slush, the accidents. Nope. They can all keep it.
So what brought you to Vegas?
Long story short, my wife, done with now. We met on MySpace.
Wow. That was a long time ago.
And then we talked for about 2 years, and I said, enough is enough. I want to be with this young lady, and we're still together to this day.
Wow, that's pretty impressive. So let's jump way back. When did you first become a CNA? What year?
Believe it or not, I wasn't a CNA. I was a home health care. I was helping my grandfather. My grandmother needed help. My grandfather had dementia, so that's when I got into it. And more I got into it, I started enjoying it. Then my dad got sick. I got into that, and then my friends were like, "Hey, come join us." They were doing a class. It was a free class, job opportunity. I was a janitor at a company in Samstown out in Traverse City, Michigan. I got into Petoskey, got my school, became a CNA, and been doing it since.
So that's a really good point that you bring up, that you went to class for free.
Yep.
I went to class for free too, but I feel like that those free classes aren't available anymore. Most of the young CNAs that I meet are paying for classes.
I only did 4 days, or 4 days a week for 4 weeks. 2 weeks was class, 2 weeks was CNA, and I only paid $400. There are still some facilities I've seen, not here in Nevada, but in other states that do offer free CNA classes, but you have to work with the company for a year. So when you do this stuff, you do your research on the company that you're going to be working for if you do it, because some of these companies are great, and some companies will work you like a dog, and you want to quit so bad, but you can't because you're afraid that the company's going to have to make you pay for it.
So when I went to school, I went through community college, but at a satellite office, and we did 6 weeks. We did 4 weeks classwork and 2 weeks clinicals, and it was completely free. There was no strings attached to it. It was just a free class that was offered at the time, and I looked around because I have a friend that wants to get her CNA, and I have yet to be able to find a CNA class here in Vegas that is offered at no charge. So if anybody out there knows of, any CNA class locally here in Vegas, let us know. You can, I forgot to mention earlier, you can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube right now. And if you happen to know of somewhere that we can send somebody to take CNA classes that are either free or maybe through welfare, like the job program.
There are programs I do know out there that help single parents that are trying to get on their feet, especially single moms. The government actually has grants, scholarships for that to help the parent to get a further education.
Right. Yeah. If you know of anything like that, drop us a line and let us know. So what things do you see? Well, no, I don't want to say it like that. What is something you did when you first started that isn't done anymore today?
Washcloths. Believe it or not, washcloths. We used to have to use washcloths. We didn't have wipes back in the day when I first started. It was washcloths. And believe it or not, back in the day, it was a lot easier too, healthcare wise. The one facility I worked out in Petoskey, I loved it dearly. We had to use washcloths, but they had certain ones, they had different colors that we used for the butt when we had to change our patient to the ones that we had to wash their bodies with. So that was one thing that I don't see anymore that they did. So, because now it's all wipes.
Right. And that's, yeah, when I first started, we didn't have wipes either. And it's nice that you guys had the different colored washcloths because we just had the white ones.
Mhm.
So if you wiped somebody's ass with that yesterday, you could be washing their face with it the next day.
Shitty.
Yeah. And we didn't use gloves.
Yeah, we didn't use gloves back in the day. They were just inserting it, saying that it's more hand sanitational to do it.
Right.
And so that's when we started doing it. So thank God, though.
And I know it sounds really gross now, now that we have been using gloves.
Thank God.
But honestly, when I started, it never occurred to me, oh, I should put on a pair of gloves. We had, our teacher showed us ways to like use the washcloth, like to wrap it around our hand and tuck it in,
that's same
so
here.
that our hands wouldn't get messy. But it never occurred to me to use gloves. And now it never occurs to me to not use gloves.
Hell, I will use gloves just to go in a room to see what's going on, because you never know.
But talking about gloves, I think you can tell the difference between somebody that's been a CNA for a while and somebody that's just starting. Because if I go into a patient's room and they just need a boost up in the bed, I don't put gloves on. I just boost them up in the bed. Most CNAs won't touch a patient without gloves on.
Well, it's because you got to think about it. You never know what they have. They might be. We have patients in the past, I remember, that are leaking through their skin. We have actually a few patients that recently that has that.
Right. Their edema is weeping.
And it can get nasty, and it can get no thanks. I'd rather wear gloves.
And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, I don't. If I run in there and Mary says, "Oh, can you get me some ice water?" I'm not putting on a pair of gloves to do that. Or if she says, "My trash is full. I know housekeeping's going to be in a little while, but would you mind taking it out?" I'm not putting on gloves for that.
Another thing that some facilities do is where housekeeping actually takes care of the trash, and the CNAs just leave it there.
Right.
Most recently, back in the day, housekeeping did that. Nowadays, we take care of that because it is what they call health sanitational issues that can cause issues. Plus, dignity issues, because if they had someone had a stinky BM, it can make the room stink. We had a recent patient that did that. If you don't want to be smelling it, this is how I look at it when I approach the room. You leave it better than you left it. What you do after you walk out of the room, representing who you are also.
Right,
so if
absolutely.
you leave the room messy, that means you're a messy person. If you leave the room better than you was before, that means you're a nice, clean person.
Right. No,
So
I absolutely agree with that. And I can tell you honestly, from personal experience, there is nothing more aggravating than going into a patient's room and there's no trash bags in the trash can.
The other pet peeve I have is, please, people, when you take your trash out, don't leave the bag attached to the bottom, because I've had it happen to me numerous times in the past where you pull the bag and the whole trash goes all over.
Yeah.
It makes my job a lot worse. So please be courteous. Rip the bottom of the bag.
If you don't understand what he's talking about, we get our trash bags in rolls, and they're all attached. They don't just, slide apart. They're attached. They have a perforated edge. And you have to tear it off the roll to put it in the trash can. And apparently a lot of people, I don't know if it's laziness or, what the issue is, but they like to leave the bag attached to the roll. And when you go to take it out of the trash can, now you have the whole flipping roll that you're trying to figure out. You only got one hand, so now you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do with this trash that's still attached to the roll. right? Isn't that what you're
Yep.
talking about?
Yep.
Yeah, that's frustrating. But I still would rather deal with that. I cannot tell you how many rooms I went in yesterday and there was no bag, no bag, no bag, no bag. And I have to stop what I'm doing in the middle of what I'm doing to hunt down trash bags.
And it's hard to find trash bags of your size because what I used to do back in the days, they would come in and hand you a roll of trash bags so that you could take care of your own trash.
Right.
And that's what I used to do, and I wish they'd do it now, but it's like trying to find a small. I don't need a big trash bag to do one small little diaper or a big diaper. Now, the bariatrics maybe, because, some of those bariatric briefs are huge. Come on now. Small trash bags are perfectly fine. I wish they had more of it for us and provide it for all CNAs so they have a roll for the day or keep it for themselves. And then when they empty out, just go get another roll. Because it'll make your job a lot easier for you, but also for everybody else and the housekeepers also. Because I worked all fields. I did kitchen, I've done housekeeping, and I've done CNA work. And I'm telling you what, the housekeepers appreciate it when you do that and help them out too. Because then they can get their job done faster and everybody's happy because we're all here as a team, not just individual. Oh, I'm just a CNA. I'm not qualified. You're qualified to do everything in a facility. I'm sorry, but when I was trained, that's how we were taught.
Well, one of the things that I've learned personally, especially here at work, is our housekeeping department is really good. At least the ladies on our unit are really, really good. So if I have a situation that comes up that I need to ask them to take care of, they're usually right on it, and they go right to it and take care of it. But I also know that you have to take care of your housekeeping department just like you do everybody else. You're going to get back what you give. If you treat them like crap and then you have a spill in your room, you're the last room that they're going to come to. Yep. So, it's true. Working as a team is important. Everybody's an important part of the team. Exactly. And I really appreciate our housekeeping department a lot.
I appreciate all our staff, even the bigwigs. They have to deal with their bigwigs too. So I appreciate everybody that does their job, from reception to kitchen to management to whoever you are. I appreciate everything you guys do for us. But
we'll agree to disagree on that point.
There are some management that I'm like, where the hell did they get their license? The Cracker Jack box?
Right. Yeah, it's not that I am anti-management, because I'm not. It's like a mom with a family. You have to have structure. You have to have somebody at the top. I get that. But 99.9% of the time, the people that you have in management are either so far removed from being on the floor or have never been on the floor that I don't find them very effective.
That's true. And that's where they need to come back to the floor on a day that they're not working and actually volunteer to pick up so that they can see what us lower, I call the CNAs, us grunts.
Right.
See what we go through, what the nurses have to go through, because the nurses have it bad too, because back in the day, nurses had more interaction with the patient. But I've talked to a lot of nurses in the last 10 years, and they said it's not nursing like it used to be, because now they're more behind the computer and the pills, and then you got families bitching at them and about their pills. You got patients bitching about their pills. And it's like, come on, it's rough. That's why I've never got into nursing as a nurse.
Right. No, it's definitely evolved, because I feel like now us CNAs are, with the exception of passing medications, are more driving the care of the patients. I remember when I first started, a lot of stuff was just basic stuff, getting them clean, getting them dressed, getting them up, and making sure their rooms were neat and tidy. But I feel like now we do more. We're watching for wounds, cleaning wounds, just making sure that the patients are getting more care from us than I feel like they're getting from the nurses, which they used to get all that stuff from the nurses. Now, at this point, at least in our facility, our nurses are so bogged down with paperwork and med passes that getting them to go do hands-on care, it's not that they don't want to, it's that they don't have the time to. And a lot of times they'll send us, well, will you go look at so-and-so's backside? Can you go do an assessment on so-and-so's, left toe?
Basically, we're the eyes and the ears for the nurses.
Absolutely. A lot of times it's, I need you to go check on Mr. Smith and tell me what his urine output looks like. Things that before they would have done, but now they just don't have the time. So that's really frustrating. And I just want to remind everybody, this is our first episode. We're going to drop one episode every Wednesday night. Go to TikTok, go to Insta, go to YouTube, check us out, subscribe. We're going to start a newsletter, a website's in the works, and we're going to get all that going. And, you guys can really help us keep this going and putting the information out there to let people know, what CNAs really do. Because there's more to being a CNA than just wiping somebody's ass. There's a lot of things that we do, and I really think that our profession is misrepresented.
Yeah, my mother-in-law thinks I'm a professional ass wiper, and I have to tell her, yes, I am a professional ass wiper. I got a license to wipe ass.
But there's way much more to the job than that.
And the one thing that they're going to tell you when you go to school, and I tell everybody, don't listen to that because it's all fake. And I was talking to not a coworker, but someone today about being a CNA because she was asking about going back, and I told her exactly this. They're going to tell you, do not get attached to your patient. That you cannot do. You will get attached to these patients because sometimes you're with these patients anywhere from 8, 12 to 16 hours a day, from anywhere from 3, 5, even some CNAs out there are 7 days a week working their asses off just to make sure that their patients are taken care of. My thing is some of my patients I treat as patients, but some of them I treat them like family because, in my past experience, some of these patients don't even have family at all.
That's true. And, especially in long-term care, you see Mima and Peepaw that just get dropped off and nobody...
and then the families all do vacations, going out to dinners, and then if something happens to that patient, I should have been there bawling their eyes out. I'm sorry. We're the ones taking care of them. They're more our family. You need to get the hell out. Because you do not care about your family coming to see your family. And that's where I get highly upset with some of these family members saying, I love you, I love you, I love... Then why don't you come at least once a week to say hi? We got one patient here in our facility where the son and the daughter comes in every Sunday.
Every Sunday,
for at least an hour, no less than an hour. But they spend an hour a week with their loved. I love that because they're showing effort and they care.
Absolutely. And nobody becomes a CNA for the money.
If you do, get out of the field now.
I hear a lot of nurses say they got into nursing for the money because it's a well-paying job.
It is.
And it's a good job security. Hold on, I got a point. Nobody gets into being a CNA for the money. So it leads me to believe, even though there is good job security, because they're always going to need CNAs, it leads me to believe that most people that become CNAs are very compassionate people. And for someone to say, don't get attached, that's impossible.
It's very impossible.
It's just impossible. We had somebody go home this week that was here for 2 years. That broke everybody's heart.
Broke mine. I still think about it
when he left. And there's a lady going home tomorrow who said to me, you need to stop by on Sunday so I have the opportunity to tell you goodbye. You just can't help but get attached. And if you don't get attached, there's something wrong.
Like I say, don't get into healthcare because this job is not for everybody. Like she said, yes, the money's great, but you got a lot of wear and tear mentally and physically. I come home some days, my wife's like, "Are you okay?" And I says, "No, my back is killing me."
Yeah.
But then I joke around and say, "Well, my work is my gym, so why do I need to go to a gym?" Because I'm the tank, and there's a reason why I'm a tank. My nickname is Tank is because I'm large like one, but when they have heavy people that need to be picked up, they call me because they know I can help them. Plus, I have restorative experience, so I know how to properly lift so I'm not hurting myself. And that is one thing that everybody needs to understand when getting in nursing, too, is a lot of body mechanics you need to know to help prevent your injuries, because I've seen a lot of CNAs, I did this and I ended up hurting myself because you didn't use proper body mechanics.
Right. Well, yeah, and we're going to talk about all of that in future episodes. There's a lot of ins and outs. Seriously, it's not just go in room 2102 and wipe his ass. There is so much more to it. So much more.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of components to this job that people just, like I said, I think there's a big misconception about what CNAs actually do. And I honestly believe if you took CNAs off the floor,
Nurses would have it harder.
the whole system would crumble.
They did that. They tried doing that back in the day in some of the hospitals, where they would start having the nurses do it, and a lot of nurses were bitching and complaining because they couldn't get their meds passed and get their waters and serve food and do all this other stuff. I can't remember what it was. Just recently in one of the Valley hospitals in the Valley of Las Vegas area Valley.
Right.
I was told that they were trying to get rid of all the CNAs and just hiring RNs, and they were having issues because a lot of RNs were quitting because it was too much work.
Well, here's the thing about RNs, and I want to just throw out a disclaimer because I'm in nursing school, so I have nothing against nurses. But when you go to school for nursing, you're taught how to pass a test. You're not taught how to be a nurse. That's what you learn on the floor. You're taught how to pass your NCLEX and become a nurse. So all the things that you need to learn to be a nurse, you learn once you graduate and get on the floor. So having said that, and again, I have nothing against any nurses whatsoever, but you can't take an RN who's learning how to be a nurse and expect her to be a CNA. I mean, it just doesn't work.
Right.
She's learning how to do her job. You can't expect her to know how to do my job.
Exactly.
It just doesn't
work that way.
And that's where
I recommend if you are going to become a nurse or an RN or LPN, please do a CNA course and go work for a year to understand what's going on. Because some of these nurses that are coming out of school have no experience as a CNA or nothing. With my past experience, like I said, I know what a CNA nurse and a nurse is.
Right.
And I'm telling you what, the CNA nurses, they're more hands-on with the patients. They get their nitty-gritty. They don't ask us, hunt us down just to say, oh, so-and-so room so-and-so needs some water. When they could have done it themselves.
Right.
They took them as much time, if not more time, just to come try to find me just so that so-and-so can get some water.
Right.
Changing a patient's one thing, but giving a water or a snack that they could have done that only takes a few seconds, that's where I'm like, okay, I know who you are.
Right. Absolutely. And again, it's nothing against nurses. I mean, healthcare needs nurses.
I love some of my nurses. I love them.
But you can't expect them to do a CNA's job when they haven't been taught how to do a CNA's job.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's rough. It's just like what CNAs don't know what an RN does. We think, they just pass meds. No, there's more to that too.
Absolutely.
Because I see one of my favorite nurses, I'm not going to mention her name, but she knows who she is. I'm telling you what, I don't know if she was a CNA or not, but she's been an LPN for a very long time, and she's amazing. She treats us CNAs like equals, which I also appreciate on that one. But I see her sitting down charting a lot, but then she's passing meds too. So her job is, like I said, RNs and LPNs don't have it that easy like we thought. But like I said, the one that, and I got some favorite ones that bust their ass and they're bubbly, happy-go-lucky. And I'm lucky, the people that I work with, I'm very lucky to have that I work with, and that's why I kind of don't want to leave the facility I'm at now. The pay's not the greatest, but you know what? The people makes me stay.
Absolutely. And I tried to explain that to somebody not too long ago when they asked me why I stay here. Aside from the fact that it's 8 minutes from my house, which is a huge thing. Absolutely. You know when you're at a good facility, the family that you develop. Mm-hmm. Because not in every facility, you won't do that.
No.
But when you get a good crew of people together that you feel are family, I mean, that makes a huge difference in your work day.
Exactly. Like my grandfather always told me growing up is when you find something you love doing, you'll never work a day of your life. That's why I work 5 to 6 days a week sometimes here with this, because I work with certain people that I love working with that makes me feel great coming into work.
And, I've tried to explain that to people, too, when they say you work too much. But I'll admit that I hate getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It is so hard to get out of bed. But once I get to work, I'm really happy because I enjoy being here.
That's why you drink too many Monsters.
I know. And just let me give a shout out to anybody that works for the Monster Company. I don't think there's anybody in the world that drinks more than I do. So if you want some brand marketing or you want to send me a case, I totally love it.
She loves Monster.
Anyway, all right, so we're going to end it there for today. Like I said, this is our first episode. We're going to drop a new episode every Wednesday. It's Tank and Maddie's CNA Chronicles. You can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube right now. Eventually, we'll set up a Facebook page, and I'm working on our website. And I really need you to subscribe so that we can get that newsletter to you every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. We're still working out the details on that one. Anything else you want to say, Tank?
Tip of the day, always ask your patient before you leave the room, is there anything else I can do for you before I leave? It is the crucial thing, because if you don't want to be getting up every 5 seconds, ask that question. Because I'll tell you what.
Wait, let's talk about that on the next episode, because I have a ton of stuff to say about that, okay?
Well, you heard her.
But let's end our episode with CNA Confessions. What is something that has happened to you or you've done at work that you need to confess? And it could have been 15 years ago or it could have been yesterday.
Okay, the main reason why I got into healthcare is because I can pass gas like crazy and I can always blame it on the patient. That's the main one reason why I'm a CNA.
That's hilarious. All right, so my CNA confession is, this was a very long time ago, and I was a baby CNA, and I worked in a long-term care facility. There was a lady who was she was constipated.
Oh boy.
And she couldn't go, and she was bariatric, and it was really hard for her to get out of bed, and it was really hard for her to sit on the bedpan. And I just want to say, I'll interject here, that the bedpans we had were not these flimsy little plastic ones that they have now.
No, the cold iron metal ones?
The cold metal ones.
I remember those.
But she couldn't go. So she asked me to do digital stimulation, which at the time I had no idea what that was. But I agreed. I was like, oh yeah, absolutely, if it'll help you go to the bathroom. So I spent 15 minutes digging shit out of the lady's ass.
Oh, that's another story for next week. I have to tell you about on that one. Let's talk about poop next week.
Okay. And things that we'll talk about that, and we'll talk about telling me everything you need before I leave the room.
Yes.
All right.
So that is a crucial thing. Right
All right. You guys have a great night, and we'll see you on the next episode. I'm Maddie.
Don't forget to subscribe, and I'm Tank.